You say, we're the only creatures on Earth who can change our biology by what we think and what we feel.
That's because we have a thinking body. Whenever you have a thought, you make a chemical that goes along with the thought. And there are receptors to these chemicals, not only in brain cells, but in all the cells of your body. So if you look at immune cells, for example, that help you fight against cancer and infection, immune cells have receptors. They're listening, they're eavesdropping to your internal dialogue. Now, we are the only people who have a nervous system that knows this. And so by knowing this, by being aware of this, we can consciously change the chemistry of our body, because to think is to practice brain chemistry and body chemistry.
I'm fascinated by that thought, because that's like when you're thinking, you all know when you're thinking a happy thought and you're feeling real good about yourself and you're thinking you're cute that day, that you kind of produce a kind of something in your body that makes you even happier. It's like sort of pleasure endorphins or something.
Yeah, more than that. You produce imipramine, which is an antidepressant. You produce immunomodulators like interleukins and interferons, which are powerful anti-cancer drugs. So if you're going on a joyride and you feel very joyful and you feel ebullient and you feel effervescent, your body is flooded with these chemicals that are very powerful anti-cancer drugs. If you had to buy them, it might cost you about $40,000 to do that. But you make millions of dollars of these when you do that. When you have the
every
experience.
single thought that you have is creating something in your body chemically.
Right, not just in your brain. For example, when you say, I have a gut feeling about such and such, your gut is making chemicals that reflect that thought. Your gut is smarter than your brain because it doesn't doubt its own thinking. It has evolved to a stage where the gut, that's what intuition is. It's your body giving you messages in the form of comfort or discomfort or an inner knowing. Or when you say, my heart is heavy with sadness, then the heart is actually loaded with sad chemicals. When you say, I'm bursting with joy, happy molecules.
Happy molecules.
Happy molecules.
Okay, well, you know, a lot of people find this to be very controversial because, you know, I have friends now who are suffering with cancer, and when you talk about this kind of thing, that your body, your mind creates whatever is going on in your body, that makes people feel like they have to blame themselves for the disease they created. But so are you saying that if you have disease, you have the disease because you somehow, because of every thought you've had, put it there?
See, it's much more complicated than that. We are participants in everything that happens in our life. To that extent, we have to take responsibility. And to the extent we can change our participation. If you come to me and you say, I have this problem, I can tell you what are the things in your life that you can change, whether it's in your diet, your lifestyle, your sleep patterns, your relationships. Basically, it amounts to the toxicity in your life. Toxic environments, toxic food, toxic drinks, toxic relationships, toxic emotions.
Toxic relationship can make you sick.
Sure, absolutely. Yes. So all these ultimately cause toxins in your body, and we have to get rid of those toxins. 10 people can be exposed to a carcinogen. Not everybody gets cancer. 100 people are exposed to a virus. Not everybody comes down with the cold. So let's look at those factors that make you susceptible and those factors that make you resistant to this disease, cancer or whatever. And then we'll try and change those factors, and you and I will take a responsibility to do that.
Okay, let's talk about how we're all connected, mind, body, and spirit.
Well, the mind is the thoughts that we have. The body is the molecules, the chemicals that those thoughts produced. But who is having those thoughts? That's the spirit. And the spirit is in the silent spaces between the thoughts. So right now, for example, as I'm speaking to you, I'm orchestrating a certain sequence of thoughts. I could say, I'm going to take off my shoe, I'm going to put on my shoe, I'm going to make a phone call, I'm going to pay you a compliment. Between this idea and the next idea is me, the thinker of the thought, who could make infinite choices. In every little space between my thoughts is the infinite choice maker. That's the spirit.
That is the spirit.
That's the
now,
spirit.
isn't part of the problem of all the suffering in the world, particularly when it comes to disease, is that people think that they are their bodies?
Yes, people think they're physical machines that have learned how to think. In fact, They are a spirit that makes thoughts, that has learned how to create the physical machine. And if you really want to heal yourself, then you want to get in touch with that part of yourself that's not time-bound, that's not in the field of change, that's non-changing. There's a part of you, Oprah, that is there when you were a little child, when you were an adolescent, that is there now, and it hasn't changed. It's that little child that's witnessing the scene, and it's standing behind with an alert appreciation of all the roles you've played, you know, the film star.
Now, is that a little child, or is that just a memory of the little child?
Actually, it's even primordial to the memory of the little child. It's the silent spirit behind the scenes. If I'm playing Hamlet today and I'm playing Julius Caesar tomorrow, the me that's playing those roles doesn't change. It's just the roles that are changing. That part of you that doesn't change is the spirit. And as I said, it's in the silent spaces between your thoughts. And it's a real force. The spirit is as real as gravity or time. It's equally as abstract, incomprehensible, mysterious, but it's much more powerful. You get in touch with the spirit and you can change your whole world.
Okay. You say in your new book that this means that the line between biology and psychology can't really be drawn with any certainty. A remembered stress, which is only a wisp of a thought, releases the same flood of hormones as the stress itself.
Right.
How is that? And what does that mean?
Because the brain doesn't know the difference between an actual experience and an imagined experience. If I anticipate surgery, then I'm afraid of the surgery, I'll release the same flood of hormones as the surgical procedure. In fact, I might release even more. If I think in my mind that I'm watching the sun, my pupils will dilate. If I think in my mind I'm in the darkness, the pupils will contract. If I think I'm holding some hot coals in my hand, the temperature will go up. If I think I'm holding ice in this hand, the temperature will go down. So every wisp of thought releases a flood of hormones and chemical messengers, and every little cell in your body is eavesdropping on that. In fact, your body is nothing other than the projection of your own consciousness. We experience ourselves objectively as the body, and we experience ourselves subjectively as the mind, and actually, whatever we are experiencing is an aspect of our own self.
So that means, for instance, if you've had a traumatic experience, or let's just talk about what goes on in everybody's life. If you're worried about something and you don't see any resolution to that, the worry about the experience causes as much problem as the actual experience.
If not more.
If not more.
If not more, because when you're actually in the midst of the experience, you have an alert appreciation of the experience and you can handle it. You know what to do at that time. The right response comes to you for the situation as it occurs. But if you're worrying about it, then your attention is caught up in that.
So as you are worrying about it, you're creating stress in your body, which can create the chemical that makes whatever that disease is that results from that particular worry.
Right. Stress is...
Have we discovered whether or not certain things, like for instance, people who repress anger or people who are angry all the time, whether or not certain emotions cause certain diseases?
Yes. Anger causes inflammatory disorders more than anything else. Depression is correlated with cancer. Guilt is also correlated with cancer.
Repressing things inside.
You see, the only two real emotions we always experience are pain and pleasure. And when we experience the pain and we let ourselves experience it as it's occurring, then we don't have problems. But if we withhold it, then it gets locked up inside our body as anger. And if we redirect it, it becomes guilt. If we anticipate it in the future, it becomes fear. But all these fear, anger, guilt, depression are expressions of our inability to feel the pain when we are having it.
So when you first start looking at that, what was that sort of process of discovery? I know that you were a child of the 60s. I know that you did LSD. Like, how much of this is showing you that there's something beyond traditional medicine? And how do you begin to piece those pieces together?
Well, I did LSD when I was in medical school, and twice. I was not even 20 at that time. And it did give me the insight that our normal everyday experience of what we call reality is the hypnosis of social conditioning, that actually reality shifts as your consciousness shifts. So to put it metaphorically, I had my first glimpse of the Matrix. And I decided that I wanted to not know what we know, but what is the source of knowing. Okay, it's not what you know. You know, what you know these days, you can look it up, go Google it. So it's not important what you know. Anybody can find out anything about anything these days. You know, I can look up how many galaxies there are in the universe, or how does epigenetics work, or how does the brain function. That's not the key to creativity. The key to creativity and higher consciousness is, how do you know what you know? What is the source of knowing and experience? What is it that knows the experience of the body? What is it that knows the experience of the mind? What is it that knows the experience called the color red? And where is that experience happening? Now, a lot of people will tell you it's in the brain, but I can assure you there's no colors in the brain. There's no color red. When you look at the red color, there's no color here in the brain. Or if you imagine the color, or if you imagine a beautiful sunset, or if you imagine what your experiences with your mother or anybody, emotions. The brain only shows chemical activity. That's called the hard problem of consciousness.
There's some sort of leap that is not understood between how there's some threshold event of all of these atoms clustering in this thing that we call a human, in this thing that we call a human brain, but there's still an unknown moment at which we become conscious. Is that what you're talking about?
No, the hard problem of consciousness is simply stated in one sentence. How do chemicals and atoms and neurochemistry or neuroelectricity produce this experience? There's no explanation for this. You're looking at me right now. All that's coming to your eyes are invisible photons. There's no red waves coming to your eyes, okay? Invisible photons. They have no color, they have no shape. They don't even have units of mass. Okay, so they don't have any dimensionality. The photons that you're exposed to right now, that are giving you the experience of your own body, of me and this room, that's all that's coming to you is electrical information. All that's going to your brain is an electrical current. It's called an action potential. But you're experiencing this room, you're experiencing your own body, you're experiencing thoughts. In fact, you're experiencing what we call reality, everyday reality. Believe it or not, no neuroscientist can tell you how that happens. They can look at what they call neural correlates. A correlation is not a causation, as we know. If the rooster crows in the morning and the sun rises at the same time, we don't assume that the rooster caused the sun to rise. Okay, but they are correlated. So your mind, your brain, and the physical world are correlated experiences in a deeper realm of existence, which is not in space or time. Something I talk about in my new book, Metahuman, that what we call body, mind, and world, and aging, and birth, and death are actually human constructs. They're not real. Now, we can go into that to the extent that you want.
You start the book by prompting two questions, right? In moments where you feel very happy, do you watch yourself being happy? And when you're angry, is some part of you free of anger, right? Why did you start with these two questions?
So in all the spiritual traditions, not necessarily just the Eastern traditions, they speak of two worlds, the immanent and the transcendent. So the immanent is this world that we're in right now, this space-time causality in New York City, the hotel we're in. And then the transcendent world is the world of infinite being or consciousness. At all times, we're in both these worlds without knowing. But once you become aware, even slightly, that the awareness of a thought is not a thought, right? If you're able to observe a thought, then you, the observer, is not that thought, right? Mm-hmm. Similarly, the observer of the emotion, or which is the awareness of an emotion, is not the emotion.
Agreed.
Or a perception, or a color. You know, right now we are perceiving through our five senses. And what we are perceiving is colors, forms, shapes, sounds, sensations in our body, maybe emotions, and thoughts, and maybe images. That's the raw material of experience. That's all there is. Okay? The words body, mind, and world are human constructs based on the interpretation of these raw sensations. So once you start to become a witness of experience, you realize that you are intrinsically free of the experience, unless you identify with it, unless you say, that's me.
Yes.
It's not you, it's an experience you're having, right?
Absolutely.
So once you bind yourself to the experience, which we call the karmic web of existence, then you are in that circle of karma, memory, desire. You are constantly seeking validation. You're afraid of people who criticize you. You're flattered by people who flatter you. You feel beneath someone or superior to someone. It's the melodrama of our daily existence. So
Yes.
when you can observe what's happening in the realm of experience, and instead of reacting to it, you observe the reaction to react, even for a second. Instead of reacting to the experience, you observe the reaction to react. You suddenly realize that your range of options or choices right this moment is actually infinite. And you don't have to be a bundle
Wow.
of conditioned reflexes and nerves that's constantly being triggered by people and circumstance into predictable outcomes. So you become you're at the mercy of every stranger on the street. So
Yeah.
I think it's very important to know that yes, I'm having this experience, but I'm intrinsically free of this experience. So that's how the book starts.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that, because it's an analogy I usually use to share that experience is like when we're in a car and someone hits the car, we say, oh, someone hit me.
Yes.
But actually they didn't hit you, they hit the car.
Yeah.
And you're identifying as the car as yourself.
Yes. Now, how about if they hit your body?
Yeah.
And your body perishes, right?
Yes.
So that's the argument people have against the argument that spiritual people have, which is you're not your body, you're not your mind. So, but you remember that famous dialogue between Samuel Johnson and whoever that idealist was, and he said, the world is a projection of consciousness. And I think it was Samuel Johnson who hit his leg on a piece of stone and said, I refute you thus, saying that, you get hit by a bus, you're going to break your
Sure.
bones and you might die.
Sure.
So why do you say that the physical world is an illusion? Now, if you want, we can address that.
Yeah, let's address that. Yeah.
Let's
absolutely.
address that.
Yeah.
So, this is, of course, I take people through the book very slowly.
Of course.
But if you asked a regular person on the street, what is this? They'd say it's a microphone. If you ask them, what's this? You'd say, this is a watch. What's this? This is my hand. What's this? This is my body. Now, if you really start to look at this very carefully, before you call anything by its name, microphone, hand, body, watch, before you use those words, it's an experience. And the experience is actually not a physical experience. Color, form, and shape are not physical experiences. If I asked you, where in the physical world is the color red located, you would say nowhere. In fact, there's no
everywhere.
color red in the physical world. What's coming to your eyes are electromagnetic vibrations which have no color. What's happening in your eyes, there's no color. And if I asked you to imagine a beautiful red sunset, you have a picture in your consciousness, but there's no picture in your brain. There's no picture in your eyes. And actually, the sunset is not, if you're imagining it, it's not in the physical world. Now, what you don't realize is when you're looking at a real sunset, all you're experiencing is color. The rest is a story. Okay, that's a sunset. this is a body. Okay. Colors, shapes, textures, sensations, smells, images, emotions, and thoughts have no location in the physical world. And yet, out of this raw material, we create the idea of a physical world. So in Sanskrit, that's called Jagat Mithya, the world appearance on the screen of your consciousness. And your body is part of that world appearance, because people, they say, where are you? People say, I'm here, but there's no one inside there. Okay, because this is also an experience in consciousness. The mind is an experience in consciousness. Moreover, it's a shifting experience in consciousness. No, a thought is ungraspable. It's ephemeral. It's evanescent. You can't catch it.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't catch a perception. I look here, I look there. These are two snapshots of perception, and they're evanescent. I look at my body, and by the time I look at it again, it's a different body, because it's recycling so fast at the level of atoms and molecules and information and energy. So the fact that we call this a body, it's actually a changing experience of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts that is a modified form of your own self. And it's changing, it's ungraspable. Same thing with the mind, it's ungraspable. Same thing which we will call with the world, it's a changing experience of shifting what we call qualia. In the spiritual literature now, in the consciousness literature, there's this word qualia instead of quantum. A quantum is a unit of measurement, but a qualia is a unit of experience. So if I tell you, think of your wife right now and you see an image, that's a qualia. Now feel the emotion connected with that, that's a qualia. Now think of what you want to do with her this evening, go out for dinner or a movie, that's a qualia. So qualia are units of experience. When we string them together, we create the construct of mind, body, and world. And once we create that construct, then we're stuck with constructs like birth and death and karma and memory and desire and all the things which make a very fascinating human experience, but it's not reality. We are already in a virtual reality. Okay, so today with VR and immersive augmented experiences and dreamscapes, it is becoming clear that the world that you and I are inhabiting right now is a collective human dreamscape. And as body minds, we are fictional characters in that dreamscape. And it's an illusion that we can upgrade or we can downgrade. We can create heaven out of it or hell, but it's still not fundamental reality. And now with the new technologies, this is becoming very clear. Once you realize that the world is a construct, yes, the construct has been evolving through mythology, through religion, through economics, through history, through society, through culture, but it's still a construct. And what these great seers, these great rishis were able to do is they were able to deconstruct it. Once you deconstruct it, what are you left with? When you left, you've heard that expression, neti, 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 I'm not the mind, I'm not the body, I'm not the intellect, I'm the observer. What are you left with? Once you deconstruct everything, what you're left with is formless, infinite, dynamic field of infinite possibilities, infinite creativity, infinite love, and the source of intention. So that's what yoga originally was and should be. Yoga means union with the self, which is also the self of the universe. And this is where, I got totally seduced. That human suffering, as the Vedanta says, comes from not knowing true reality, fundamental reality, confusing perceptual reality with fundamental reality, grasping and clinging that which you cannot grasp or cling, the fear of impermanence, the construct of the ego, and the fear of death. These are all the same thing, not knowing what is real and what is a projection. And even the projection can be changed.